3 weeks before my engagement party, my phone rang just as I was choosing the final batch of invitations. The screen lit up with "Mom calling." I answered, still laughing over a silly group chat with Emma, my best friend and maid of honor. "Quinn, cancel the engagement party," my mom said flatly, skipping any form of greeting. I froze in the middle of the print shop. "What did you say?" I thought I had misheard her. "You heard me. Cancel it. Your sister just got promoted to department director, and the whole family is throwing her a celebration that day." I was speechless. Actually, my younger sister was only 27, 2 years younger than me, and had always been the golden child. But this? "You've got to be kidding," I said, my voice tight. "I already booked the venue, chose the rings, finalized the guest list, ordered the flowers and the cake. Everything's done. How am I supposed to cancel?" My mom sighed, long and dramatic. "You're acting like Ashley doesn't deserve to be celebrated. She's the youngest director in her department. This is a huge milestone, Quinn. You can reschedule, can't you?" I gripped the phone. "Reschedule how, Mom? The invitations are already printed. You know I've been planning this for nearly 6 months." Her tone shifted, sharp and cold. "You're being selfish. It's just a celebration. With the same guests, only a different reason. Why does it always have to be Quinn's event?" I stood frozen at the counter, heart pounding like someone had punched me in the chest. All the old childhood refrains came rushing back. "Ashley's smarter. Ashley's more polite. Why can't you be more like your sister?" I forced myself to stay calm. "Mom, I'm not canceling. This is my engagement party, not a weekend hangout. If you want to throw something for Ashley, pick another day." There was a heavy silence. Then Mom snapped, "Don't blame me if no one shows up." I said nothing else. I just hung up, still holding the invitation like it had turned into something shameful. My eyes burned, not from anger, but from something far more familiar. Once again, I wasn't the one being chosen. 2 days after the call, I was still shaken. I avoided the family group chat, didn't call back, and poured everything I had into finalizing the last steps for the engagement party. This day I had dreamed about for 3 years with Marcus. That morning, just as I stepped out of a meeting with our wedding cake vendor, my phone started buzzing nonstop. A message popped up from a relative. "Aunt, Julie in Denver. Quinn, I heard you and Marcus broke up. Are you okay?" I stopped cold in the parking lot. Another message followed, this one from Uncle Raymond. "So, sorry to hear the news, but I hope you're holding up. We'll be attending Ashley's celebration instead." My hands trembled as I opened the next few messages. Each one either misinformed condolences or questions about a sudden breakup. Some even said my mom had told them to head to Ashley's promotion party at Norwell Restaurant this Saturday, the exact date I had locked in for our engagement. I stood there, stunned, throat tight. My mother hadn't just refused to support me. She had gone behind my back and told everyone the engagement was off, and replaced my celebration with one for Ashley. I called Marcus immediately. He was on his way to a fitting appointment at the studio. "Marcus, I think my mom's sabotaging everything," I said quickly. "A bunch of relatives are texting me asking why we broke up. They say my mom told them." He was quiet for a moment. "Say that again?" I read out a few of the texts. I could hear his breathing slow on the other end of the line. "All right," Marcus said, his voice tight. "I'm coming home early tonight. We need to deal with this." That night, we sat cross-legged on the living room floor, the soft glow of the table lamp shining on our printed guest list. I started calling people. Aunt Ruth in Oregon, Marcus's college roommate, family friends. Some were shocked, some hesitant. A few had already booked flights to California to attend Ashley's party. After every call, a small piece of me cracked. "You know," Aunt Ruth said quietly, "your mom told us you canceled the party because you couldn't handle your sister getting the spotlight. I thought it was odd, but I didn't want to pry." I bit my lip, trying not to cry. Marcus looked at me, his eyes a mix of fury and sympathy. "Your mom is turning our wedding into a joke," he said, his voice calm but firm. "But I won't let her win." We both posted a carefully worded correction on social media, stating that the engagement party was still happening and that we were doing just fine. I chose my words cautiously, no direct accusations, but enough to signal that something had been twisted. Marcus called his closest friends, and I texted my old high school circle one by one. Some responded immediately. "Oh, wow, we thought it was canceled. Glad we can rebook our flights." By 2 a.m., my throat was sore and my brain felt like mush. But at least, I felt like I had taken back some control. Before heading to bed, I looked over the guest list one more time. The names I hadn't reached, I'd call in the morning. I scribbled one last note at the bottom. Scheduled private meeting with Aunt Edna. She was my father's eldest sister, and the one person in the family whose voice could still calm a storm. I knew I couldn't undo every lie, but I wasn't going to let my mother rewrite my story the way she wanted. The next afternoon, I decided to visit Aunt Edna, Dad's sister, the only person whose voice still carried enough weight to settle the family when things spiraled. She lived just 15 minutes away in a quiet, book-filled attic apartment where I used to retreat as a kid when home got too loud, with endless comparisons between me and Ashley. I'd brought a box of her favorite hazelnut cookies ready to explain everything, at least to her. But as I stepped out of the elevator and approached her door, I froze. The door was slightly ajar, and familiar voices drifted from inside. "That Quinn girl is pulling some stunt, isn't she?" a younger woman's voice said. "She canceled her engagement party just because Ashley got promoted? And now she's going around saying her mom forced her, acting like some kind of victim." It was Melissa, my cousin, Aunt Edna's daughter. I stood rooted to the floor. "I don't get it either." Aunt Edna sighed. "I think Quinn just wants attention. She made up a breakup story and then scrambled to correct it. Poor Ashley. She's afraid to even speak up now, worried she'll be accused of stealing the spotlight." It felt like someone had slapped me across the face. Every word pierced like a needle. Neither of them knew the truth. That I never canceled the party, never made up a breakup. My mother had orchestrated all of it. I stepped in. They both jumped, and Melissa dropped her teacup. "Oh, Quinn!" Aunt Edna stood up awkwardly. "We didn't expect you this early." "Clearly?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady, though my heart was pounding like a drum. I set the box of cookies on the table and looked directly at both of them. "I came to invite you to my engagement party, but it seems you've already decided to believe another version of the story." The room fell completely silent. Melissa mumbled, "We just repeated what Mom told us." "And no one asked me," I cut in, my voice starting to shake with the anger I'd held back. "What did my mom say? That I lost it because Ashley got promoted? That I canceled the party out of jealousy? Did either of you stop to think, if that were true, why would I still be inviting guests, ordering food, and booking live music?" Aunt Edna sighed, her face pale. "You know, your mom was very convincing. I didn't think to question it. She called everyone herself to change the plan, made up the breakup story, and now I have to go from person to person like some liar trying to clean up a mess I didn't make." I paused, pulled out my phone, and opened a message from Uncle Raymond. I read it aloud. "Your mom said you couldn't handle Ashley getting attention. Everything's a mess." The two women in front of me were now silent. "I'm not looking for pity," I said, voice hoarse. "I just want the truth to be understood. And if you believe I'm out here stealing the spotlight or faking it for attention, I can't stop you." Aunt Edna leaned toward me, her expression softening. "Quinn? I'm sorry. I was wrong not to ask you first. I forgot about that little girl who won an essay contest, only to be pushed behind Ashley and her volleyball trophy." I clenched my hands. Melissa added timidly, "I'm sorry too, Quinn. I didn't think to verify anything." I nodded, my tone calmer now. "I'm not angry. But if you believe in me, just this once, I need help. I can't fix this on my own." Aunt Edna stood and placed her hand gently on my shoulder. I'll call everyone on our side of the family. Melissa, you handle the old school crowd. We'll turn this around. I looked at her, and for the first time in days, I saw a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. Saturday afternoon. A soft breeze rustled the eucalyptus trees around Echo Ridge Lake, the place Marcus and I chose for our engagement ceremony. The sky was unexpectedly clear after several gray days, as if the universe had decided to offer a little peace after the chaos. I stood behind the white wooden gate that led into the outdoor venue, holding a bouquet of dried lavender in my hands, heart pounding. Marcus gently took my hand. I took a deep breath. Almost. The gate opened, and I stopped in my tracks. The venue was packed. I didn't know what I had prepared myself for. Half-empty tables, an awkward gathering with people showing up out of obligation. But no. There was Aunt Julie from Denver, chatting animatedly with Uncle Raymond. Marcus's college friends were waving at us from across the lawn. And there was Aunt Edna, in a soft lilac dress, guiding my grandmother carefully down the steps with a beaming smile. I walked past familiar faces, receiving warm hugs, heartfelt congratulations, and empathetic glances. One by one, they whispered in my ear, "Don't let anyone steal your joy. You deserve this day. We know what really happened." There was no sign of my mother, no father, and certainly no Ashley. Strangely, I wasn't sad. There was no boiling anger like the week before. No emptiness, either. Just a profound sense of relief, like someone had finally dusted off a long-forgotten room inside me. The celebration was simple but elegant. String lights hung between the trees, soft acoustic guitar played in the background, and the lake reflected the golden sunset like a living painting. When Marcus took the mic to thank everyone, I stood beside him, his hand still holding mine. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, voice strong and warm. "We know the past few weeks have been confusing, but your love and steadiness are what brought us here, not just as an engaged couple, but as two people who feel truly supported." Applause erupted like the late afternoon sun. Then it was my turn. I didn't give a long speech, just one line. "Thank you. For being my family, not by blood, but by choice." The crowd fell silent, then exploded with warm clapping. Less than 10 minutes later, my 81-year-old grandmother suddenly stepped into the center of the yard. She winked at me, then raised her hand and called out, "All right, who here thinks they can beat me at Texas-style line dancing? Let's see what you've got." The music shifted into a country rhythm, and within moments, the wooden outdoor floor had turned into a full-on dance arena, as my grandmother, cowboy hat on her head and sneakers on her feet, spun in place with impressive flair, leaving all the grandkids wide-eyed. I burst out laughing. So did Marcus. The crowd cheered, clapped, and gradually joined in. Conversations hummed along the dinner tables. I overheard bits and pieces of chatter, raw with disbelief and frustration. I still can't believe her mom actually did that. Ashley girl was out of line. Didn't even apologize. But Quinn held it together. That takes real strength. I didn't flinch. I didn't deflect. I accepted it all. As part of my journey, the party wound down just as lanterns lit up the path around the lake. Marcus and I stood together, saying goodbye to the last of our guests, a surge of gratitude rising in my chest like a quiet tide. They came, not out of family obligation, but out of love. They chose the truth. And that, to me, was worth far more than any belated sorry from those who walked away. Sunday, the day after the engagement party. Marcus and I were having a late breakfast at our usual cafe, the same place we had our first date, when my phone started ringing. "Mom," flashed on the screen. I stared at it for exactly 3 seconds before answering, hands still smelling faintly of cinnamon waffles. The moment I picked up, her voice erupted, No greeting, no pause to breathe. You ungrateful brat. You humiliated this family just to satisfy your selfish little ego. Was it worth it? Ashley cried all night. Her party had barely a handful of guests while you paraded around in your tacky celebration, soaking up applause. I set my fork down. Marcus looked up at me, eyes narrowing. I switched to speakerphone. "Mom," I said, each word deliberate. "Everything that happened was something you created. I didn't cancel the party. I didn't break up. I didn't lie to anyone. You spread false rumors and redirected guests to Ashley's event. Who exactly are you blaming now?" I heard her sharp breath over the line, then her voice, low and venomous. "Don't you dare blame me. If you weren't so jealous of your sister, you wouldn't have rushed to throw that little show of an engagement party." Marcus squeezed my hand under the table. I stayed calm, unwilling to let this morning be hijacked by her familiar storm. "I have nothing more to say," I replied firmly. "I've been silent long enough." "Silent?" she nearly screamed. "You turned your party into a stage just to smear your own mother and sister. The whole family is saying you tore us apart." I didn't answer. I just hung up. Not 5 seconds later, my phone buzzed. Text from Ashley. "Hope you enjoyed humiliating me. You're going to pay for what happened last night." I set the phone down and let out a sharp laugh. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "What did she say?" I tilted my head, rereading the message aloud with cool indifference. A revenge threat. He leaned back, eyes still fixed on me. "You don't need to respond right now, but we need to be prepared." I nodded. Since we were kids, Ashley always had a way of flipping the script, making me the bad guy, whether it was over a lost toy or a low grade. But this wasn't some backyard squabble anymore. Huh? And I wasn't the silent girl hiding behind a bedroom door. That afternoon, I received an email from the event company. Someone had called pretending to be me, requesting to cancel our photo package and delete all backup files. My skin went cold. I called back immediately, verified my identity, and spoke directly with their senior technician. "We didn't process the cancellation," he assured me. The caller sounded tense, kept rushing us to delete everything, which raised a red flag. "We flagged the account for review and held off until we could confirm with you." I felt my entire body loosen with relief. The photos and all the backup files were still safe. They had saved me from a disaster I hadn't even seen coming. When I told Marcus, he only said one thing: "We need to start documenting everything. From now on, if anything even feels off, we record it." I exhaled deeply, staring out the window. It wasn't that I hadn't once hoped my mother would change, or that Ashley would eventually grow up and realize who had always backed down in the family. But maybe hoping they'd understand was a trap I had to finally walk away from. 3 days after my mom's explosive call and Ashley's threatening message, I got a phone call from Rachel. Marcus's mom. "Quinn," she said gently, though I could sense the worry in her voice. "Do you think you could stop by the house this afternoon? There's something I think you should see." Marcus didn't say a word the entire drive over, but I could feel his hand tightening around mine more than usual. When we arrived, Howard, Marcus's dad, was already seated in the living room, next to a thick folder and an open iPad. On screen were printed out emails and a string of disjointed chat logs sent from an anonymous account, complete with screenshots of messages, supposedly from me. Or rather, messages that looked like they were from me. "We received this from a strange email address," Rachel said, handing me the packet. "The contents? Claim you're involved with someone at work, that you're not being honest with Marcus." I flipped through the first few pages. Fragmented messages, clumsily stitched together, fake screenshots from a mock Facebook Messenger thread, showing conversations between me and someone named Dean. I had never spoken to anyone named Dean in my life, but I knew exactly who was behind this. "It's Ashley," I said without hesitation. Marcus nodded. "I know her writing style. Back in college, she used to mimic it perfectly to prank classmates. Howard sighed. We don't believe any of it, but I thought you should see it. I bit my lip, eyes burning, not because I felt accused, but because even after preparing myself, I hadn't expected Ashley to fabricate evidence to sabotage my relationship. I looked at Marcus. It's time, I whispered. I need people to see the truth. That night, I visited my grandmother, Beatrice, the one who always believed our family would come back together someday. She used to say, "Be generous, Quinn. Your mother and Ashley just don't know how to show love." She welcomed me into the kitchen, still in her soft pink turtleneck sweater, with a mug of peppermint tea already waiting on the table. I sat down, opened my phone, hands trembling slightly as I pulled up the voice recording from that call. I hit play. My mother's voice rang out, sharp, furious. You humiliated the whole family just to satisfy your selfish little ego, Ashley cried all night. The entire family says you tore us apart. Then I played the second recording. Ashley, calling the wedding photo service. She won't need the photos anymore. Cancel it. Quinn Harper doesn't want to keep anything. When the audio stopped, the kitchen went silent, like all sound had been sucked out of the room. Grandma didn't speak for several minutes. She just stared into her tea, hands shaking. Finally, she gently held mine. I'm sorry, Quinn. I kept urging you to forgive, not realizing I was asking you to endure more. I was wrong. And I truly apologize. I smiled faintly, voice lowering. I just wanted you to know the full picture. Not to hurt anyone, but so I'd stop questioning if I was being too harsh. She nodded quietly. I thought that was enough. Till the next morning. A message from my mom came in at 7:13 a.m., nearly a full page long. You're a traitor. You recorded your own mother and played it for your grandmother? You're disgusting. I've tolerated you for 30 years now. I'm done. You are no longer my daughter. A minute later, a message from my dad. I didn't think you'd stoop so low to play spy games. Good luck with your cheap little wedding. As far as I'm concerned, you never existed. I sat still, not in shock, but because everything had finally become clear. If love requires begging through silent endurance, then it's no longer love. I looked up at Marcus in the kitchen, pouring coffee, the morning light casting a soft glow on his shoulders. And I knew I had chosen the right person to move forward with. I began to feel the ripple effects of Ashley's bitterness. Within a week of her failed attempt to slander me to Marcus's parents, the atmosphere at work shifted. Coworkers who used to greet me warmly now avoided eye contact. A few even went quiet mid-conversation when I entered the break room. One afternoon, while eating lunch at my desk, my phone rang. It was Taylor, our HR team lead. Quinn, do you mind stopping by the conference room? Her tone was polite but stiff. When I arrived, she placed a stack of papers on the table. I glanced at them. Screenshots of social media comments from anonymous accounts accusing me of being an emotional manipulator, a fake partner, and someone who always plays the victim. I frowned. Taylor, where is this coming from? We're not making any claims, she said. But a few coworkers submitted reports saying the rumors are creating a hostile environment. I scoffed. Rumors? From anonymous accounts? Taylor sighed. I believe you, Quinn. But legal asked us to document the situation. We're going to need your cooperation and discretion. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. Deep down, I knew exactly where this was coming from. Ashley hadn't stopped. She was still playing a one-sided war. 2 days later, Marcus came home with a tense look. He set his bag down and looked straight at me. Ashley called me. I held my breath. He used an unknown number. Sounded sweet at first, then flipped. He paused. She said you were having an affair with your old boss? What's his name? Neil? A jolt ran through me. Neil was the man who wrote my reference letter when I changed jobs last year. A married man, 20 years older than me, who never crossed a professional line. What did you do? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Marcus met my gaze without wavering. I asked, "Do you have any proof?" When she stuttered, I laughed and told her if she kept going, I'd report her for defamation. I didn't know how to react. Part of me wanted to laugh at how calmly Marcus shut it down. Another part just wanted to collapse from exhaustion. A week later, I got a message from Melissa, my cousin who once gossiped behind my back, but now stood firmly in my corner. "She's being watched at work. Word is, upper management launched an internal review after multiple complaints." I wasn't surprised. Ashley worked at a well-known media firm in Seattle, where a single misstep in crisis management could ruin a career. And spending all her energy trying to destroy someone else clearly wasn't helping her performance. 3 days after that, I received a leaked copy of an internal email. Ashley Harper, suspended pending performance review and internal conduct investigation. I didn't feel triumphant, honestly. I didn't... Ugh. I just exhaled, finally. Soon after, an anonymous post appeared on her company's internal confession board, meant for staff to share experiences, about a young team leader obsessed with attention and jealousy. No names mentioned, but everyone who knew Ashley knew exactly who it was. The last I heard from Melissa, Ashley was demoted, transferred to a digital department unrelated to creative work, and considering leaving the company altogether. A full circle had closed. Not because I sought revenge, but because Ashley had sabotaged herself, spending all her energy dragging others down, instead of standing on her own 2 feet. I sat alone in the living room on a Friday night, exactly 1 week before the wedding. Beside me were the final guest list printouts and a few spare invitations. 3 blank spaces remained. Mom. Dad. Ashley. I hesitated for an entire week. Pen down, then up again. Logic told me what the answer should be, but a softer part of me still wondered, what if they changed? Texted Marcus, "I need a few quiet minutes." He replied instantly. "I'm at the corner cafe. Take your time. Love you." I looked up at the photo on the shelf. Marcus and me at our engagement party, surrounded by genuinely smiling faces. No comparison. No one stealing the spotlight. Just real love and something I'd waited my whole life for, to be accepted as I am. I looked at the 3 names. Then, without hesitation, I drew a quiet line across each one. The wedding took place on an early fall afternoon at Lavender Crest Garden, a quiet hilltop venue in Santa Rosa that we had chosen from day one for its absolute serenity. I walked down the aisle lined with dried flower petals, my arm linked with Miss Edna's. Grandma Beatrice sat in the front row, wearing seafoam green and an encouraging smile that steadied me more than any blessing. No seat was left empty. Everyone came. From high school friends to current co-workers, from Aunt Ruth in Wyoming to Uncle Harry, my grandpa's old war buddy. Each had a reason to be there, but none brought judgment. No one asked about my parents. No one mentioned Ashley. And I didn't feel the need to explain. Marcus stood under the floral arch of olive branches and ferns, his eyes shining as I walked closer. When he held out his hand, I didn't just take it out of ritual. I took it knowing this was the first person who had chosen to stand by me, unconditionally. The officiant began the vows. Marcus spoke first. His voice shook slightly, but his gaze didn't. "Gwen, I won't promise to make everything perfect. But I promise you'll never have to fight alone again." Tears blurred my vision. When it was my turn, I said, "I used to think family was something you had to hold on to no matter how much it hurt. But today I know real family is made of those who make you feel heard, respected, and chosen." We exchanged rings. No fireworks, no grand orchestra. Just long applause, hugs from those who mattered, and Marcus's steady grip on my hand as we stepped onto the grass, beginning an entirely new chapter. That night, after the reception, I stood on the balcony of our suite overlooking the valley. Soft yellow lights still glowed from the wedding tents below, music echoing faintly. Marcus wrapped his arms around me from behind. You okay? I nodded. I never thought I'd feel this light. He rested his chin on my shoulder. Our family looked beautiful today. I smiled. Yeah, and I finally understand blood isn't always the root. Sometimes you have to replant. He held me tighter. The next morning, as we left for a short honeymoon, my phone buzzed several times. Messages from my mom, my dad, and one anonymous email with Ashley's name on it. I didn't read them, I just put the phone on silent. Not out of anger, but because I no longer needed answers from people who had already turned away. I had my own family now. Quinn's story is proof that sometimes living true to yourself means walking away from bonds that once seemed unbreakable. Blood doesn't guarantee love if there's no respect or care. In a world full of family expectations and judgment, choosing peace and redefining family in your own terms isn't just brave, it's a powerful journey of growth. What would you have done in Quinn's place? Would you make the same choice? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow our channel for more real-life family stories.